So, Mr. Tomati, so where do most businesses lose money on their website without realizing it?
Honestly, it's the small things.
Yeah.
A lot of people expect it to be a very obvious thing, but it's usually the nitty gritties that many people don't pay attention to, especially when they choose to work with firms that are not very strategic or professional in their approach to web development and SEO. So when I say the small things, you're thinking of call to actions on the website or the lack of call to actions. You're thinking of headlines, the sub headlines that they're using on their website, and the lack of elements that help to build trust. Now, when you're looking at a service-based business that's doing more than 3 million shillings in monthly revenue, they've already figured out a lot of things about their audience and their service, but a lot of them still don't put in the effort or, go the extra mile to work with professionals who are going to optimize their websites to convert uh, cold leads and people who are just discovering their website for the first time. So, in summary, it's the small things that you don't really pay attention to. Like, how are you wording the headlines on your website?
Okay.
Does the hero section help to build trust? Does it tell the customers or the visitors to your website what it is that you do, who you do it for, and why they should care about it? And you also want to have call to actions that actually drive the user to, you know, contact you. And the last thing is, if the forms on your website feel like a questionnaire, they are more likely to drive away a lot of people.
Okay.
You want to keep it simple and you want to make it as easy as possible for people to get in touch with you, to learn about your services, and to give you money. Because I think that's the objective of any business.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you feel like have you ever seen an instance where, like, an example of a business where they didn't put into consideration just what you talked about? And
Yes. Actually, that is something we've done a lot. We've done a lot of web redesigns
okay.
because you find that certain businesses, especially the ones that we've worked with, they tend to have a very old school approach to client acquisition, and they don't really pay attention much to what's happening on their websites. So
Okay.
you find that they'll choose to work with somebody who's just going to give them a website. Find a simple student or a beginner who doesn't really know how the strategy works, who doesn't have concrete proof, and they don't have the experience that you need to make a website work.
Okay.
And so they'll contract this person. They don't really pay too much attention to the funnel and how clients are going to view their website.
Okay.
And with that, they end up just building a website for several years into the future. It's costing them more money than it's making. You're
Yeah.
paying for
Sure.
hosting. You're probably putting a bunch of content over there, but it's not generating any leads or any money for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's usually the small tweaks, and we try to incorporate data and other elements that make a website actually loved by Google and loved by your clients, such as speeding up a website. You don't want to go with the cheapest hosting you can find. You want something that's going to load up quickly because
Yeah.
the internet is a free market. You're competing with everybody else out there, and if you're not willing to go the extra mile, then somebody else is going to do that, and they're going to take away the revenue from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
So we've seen it a lot, and it's a
It's
common
something.
thing,
Yeah.
especially in Kenya.
In Kenya, right?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people still think that a website is just something you have that
You have. Yeah.
you tell people, oh yeah, I have a website, but no, it's supposed to complement your marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. So can go on to the next question. Okay. If a business is scaling beyond referrals, what changes on their websites need to happen?
So if your business has been generating revenue mainly through referrals, uh, there's a specific model, but it tends to peak at a certain point.
Okay.
You'll get the clients. Think of it as a graph. You'll keep getting referrals, but at one point you'll still be serving the same people. And now you want to think of your business as a brand. Once
Okay.
you're trying to break past the 3 million shillings barrier, you want to think of your business as a brand and you want to build a reputation. And that's where SEO comes in. And for most people, you want to also think of acquiring cold leads. These are people who've never heard about you. they've not been referred, they're just landing onto your website for the first time. So with such businesses, they have a lot more work to do when it comes to building trust and confirming the reputation that they already have on the market.
Okay.
And there are certain simple ways that you can do this, but the most common and most effective one is testimonials.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A lot of our purchasing decisions are influenced by what we see others do.
Exactly.
It's innate in human nature where we see somebody do something and we think, okay, if it's good for them, it's probably going to be good for me too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you have a lot more work to do in acquiring people who've never heard about you, because testimonials, referrals alone are not going to be sufficient for
Yeah, yeah.
growing past certain barriers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in especially in Kenya. When
Yes.
you ask, let's say, a dentist or a the dental industry, how are you getting customers? They'll confidently tell you like, yeah, it's just referrals and just good. They don't understand the other things you can do in the long term that will
Yeah.
help you scale. You're just in that bubble of referral is just they are all
Referrals.
good with the referrals, but it doesn't. You can't scale so much with referrals, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. You want to think of the brand. These days, a website is not just a flyer on the internet, because
yeah,
anybody can build a website, but you want to approach SEO into making your business a brand, especially when you're trying to break past certain financial
yeah.
milestones.
Nice one, exactly.
So when you're going from 3 million, what worked to get you to 3 million is not going to be the same as going to break you past the 3 million
The 3 million
barrier.
mark, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's that's understandable. So yeah, it's a really common thing, especially in the service industry in Kenya, where
absolutely.
everyone is saying, okay, yeah, I'm just good with referrals, but it's okay, good, but you're waiting. It's like it's a hope, and hope is not a strategy. So
It
you have to have
isn't.
something else that will help you take it to the next level. So
Exactly.
yeah, another question. So let's do the next question, Mr. Tomat. So do you ever see websites that are aligned with businesses most profitable offer? Like, have you ever seen that instance?
Yes, that is something that we've seen a lot, where a business could have a particular service that generates a significant portion of their revenue, but they don't really pay attention to that. And especially in the service industry, we see that certain businesses approach SEO from, what wouldn't really work for a service business, where it's just you're writing blog posts. And
Okay,
blog posts they're good, but those alone are not going to get you sales.
okay,
You want to pay attention to the service pages, and you want to prioritize what's generating the most revenue for you.
okay,
Yeah. So as a business, the core of your business to be centered around what's working best for you, and don't try to scale too fast.
yeah,
It's better to niche down into what's working the best for you and be the best at that. And later on, when it makes business sense, then you can scale out and think about, you know, extending your expertise into other services and service areas.
okay,
Yeah. So a problem that I've seen with a lot of websites is that they don't optimize the pages that are supposed to bring in revenue.
mm,
So when you're writing blog posts alone and you don't really think about what the service pages are going to look like, uh, you're losing money,
okay,
potential revenue, and all that is going to your competitors.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a common thing. Like most people, they just rely on blog posts. That, like you said, have you ever seen any business where there's a mismatch in alignment with whatever you just said? Like an example, have you ever seen an instance?
Yes, that happens a lot. And when you rely on blog posts alone, a common issue that comes up is you get a lot of traffic, but very little leads. In fact,
Yeah.
not many people even end up on your contact page or any of the forms on your website. And that's a big problem, because if you're getting traffic, but that traffic is not converting, that doesn't sound like a very sustainable business model. And
Mm,
yeah, it's probably going to be costing you a lot more money to maintain the website
okay.
compared to what you're going to get from the website.
Okay. a valid point. Yeah, okay, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's a common challenge I've seen in Kenya, especially.
Yeah, it's a really big thing, and most the service industry they need like take care of they only rely on blog posts. They only say, oh yeah, and it's not something that you are really consistent in. Even if they're doing the blog post, it's
Yes.
not something that they really take a lot of time to do. They
Yeah,
just do it and they don't know why they're doing it. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And
exactly.
an approach that we've recommended to a lot of clients, and from our data, more than 80 businesses that we've worked with,
Yeah,
it's always good to have landing pages on your website
yeah,
because those are the pages that are going to make you the most revenue.
okay,
Blog posts are good for informing the public about what services you offer, how it benefits them. But then when you need to make money, you need the actual landing pages for your services.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, landing pages are really. We'll come to that topic of landing page. It's a really sensitive topic, and we'll
Oh,
come
it
to that.
is.
Yeah,
It
but
is.
landing pages is a really big thing, and people should really be educated on how to do landing pages and how they work and why should they do it and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
yeah. Let's go to the next question. So, what's the danger of running ads or doing SEO without a conversion optimized site?
Uh, so if your website is not optimized for conversion, it's of course it's going to lose you revenue or potential revenue because you're spending money on ads. You're probably spending money on people that are, employees to your business who are updating the pages, or you're maybe paying a retainer to a farm like ours.
Yeah.
If you're spending money, but that money is not, you know, generating revenue for you, it's a big problem. And
Okay.
the thing that happens is people land on your website and maybe you don't have the correct copy that resonates with them. You don't explain how you are going to solve their problems, and you don't have the right call to actions. So people land onto your website, but then they don't know what steps to take next.
Okay.
And when somebody lands on your website and they are confused, their very first instinct is to bounce off because,
Exactly.
in today's digital era, we have very short attention spans, and the
Exactly.
market is so much more competitive. So
Yeah.
if you're not going to give somebody a reason to do business with you, they're more likely to bounce right off and go do business with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you approach development, especially from our perspective, we tend to understand the customer first before we even go about building a website,
Okay.
which is very contrary to how we see so many people do it out there in the industry, where if somebody wants to do a website, the first thing they talk about is, oh, what color palettes are we going to use?
Okay.
Or what fonts are we going to use? But that is the very last thing that comes in. First, you want to understand the customer. You want to map the customer journey, and you want to build off of that to develop a funnel that eventually becomes a visually appealing website that now generates revenue to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to approach it from the customer's perspective, not your own perspective or what you think is good for the customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So let's go to another question. So how important is it for the website to reflect the actual value of a client?
So the value of a client, it's you need to understand your clients and their needs and what this client values in their approach to life.
Okay.
Because there are certain clients who they value premium services, they value quality, and they are willing to spend money on that. And you have certain clients who value affordability, the necessities. Understanding this is essential when you're approaching web design. It affects everything on your website, from the copy to the kind of images you're going to use, and the kind of testimonials that you're going to have. It all comes into play to build an overall strategy that complements your marketing. And a key thing about websites is that they're one of the fastest ways to build trust for a business, especially a service-based business. Everything else, such as referrals or handing out your business card, yeah, they may play a role, but it's your website that people are going to spend a lot of time on, and they're going to click around, they're going to read things, they're going to look at the images, and all that comes into play into communicating the value. So if you have a service based business that, for example, has an average client value of, let's say, 100,000 or more,
Okay.
and we've worked with certain companies around Nairobi that sell to an average audience that's going to spend 150,000 shillings.
Okay.
These are people who value premium services, and you want to give them a premium experience. This is somebody who, they don't have a lot of time on their hands. They're probably a busy professional. They
Okay.
have a lot of things to do. You don't want to give them a slow loading website that has a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
pop-ups and a
Exactly.
lot of gimmicky things, because these are people who, they're not very easily impressed. You have to give them a reason why they should do business with you.
Okay.
So trying to use the most gimmicky marketing or sales language is not going to work for this kind of audience, and you're more likely to drive them away, because these are people who, they have money to spend, but they don't have a lot of time, and they constantly have people who are trying to sell them something.
Exactly.
But your website needs to be different. You need to communicate the value instead of trying to be salesy.
Yeah. And I've seen it's really common. So people
Yes.
really don't pay attention to the kind of customer you're selling to. So
Yeah.
if you're selling to the rich demographic, these are people who have time, who have money, but they don't have time. So
Yes.
if your website is slow,
Yeah.
automatically they'll bounce off because they have very short amount of time, and they make
Absolutely.
their decision fast. So the moment they come to your website, they want to see whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
and they're instantaneous. Okay, they don't have so much time. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, what's here? What are they providing? I want to make my decision as fast as possible, and
Yeah.
I continue with my business. But most people, they really don't pay attention to the customer, so they don't care about the website uh, loading speed.
Yeah.
They really don't care about handling any objection on the website itself.
Absolutely.
So everything is basic, and they wonder why, okay, why are people not why are people not like why is it there's traffic but there's no conversion?
Yeah.
But they really don't understand there are a lot of things that comes in hand. You can have good ads, but if the website the loading speed is low,
Yeah.
of course there'll be a lot of bounce rate. If they are not like, if the website doesn't communicate whatever the client wants, of course they'll bounce off, and your website will even have a very high bounce off rate. And people need to really, there's a there's a software called Similar Web,
Yeah. Similar.
yeah, which I normally use to analyze a client's website. So I want to see what's the how much time how much time are people spending on the website, what's the bounce
Exactly.
off rate. If I see if it's high, there's there's a problem with that website.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there is always a problem, and this is something every business owner needs to do. You have to understand: am I selling to a very rich demographic? So what do they care about? They don't have so
Exactly.
much time. They want to make the decision fast
Absolutely.
as possible. You have to communicate value. You need to answer all the objections that they have. So it makes it's easier on the client side and to understand to know what is here. All these are my objections. You've already answered my objections,
Yeah.
so I can just make a decision as fast as possible. Then yeah, you convert your client, but people really don't understand that.
Yeah. Actually, I totally agree with that, and I think it's incredibly important for people to understand that when you're selling to a high value client, they need reassurance. I don't need to do it as quickly as possible, because this is somebody who values their time. And reassurance, in our case, comes in a package of three key elements. You want to look at the design, the marketing, and the proof.
Yeah,
And all these comes into play to justify to this person that they're making the right call by doing business with you.
exactly. Yeah,
Exactly.
they are really not. They care about the service more than the money because they already have the money. So
Absolutely.
they just want something. They want to trust you first. They want to make sure the decision they are making is best for them, and they don't
Exactly.
want any second chances like guessing. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, let's go to the next question. Do you find that many websites are just listing services instead of actually selling?
Yes, this is something that we've seen a lot, and the key problem with that is it stems from not having a funnel and not developing a strategy before going on to build a website.
Okay.
So a website that just lists out the services is A website that tells people, "Oh, this is what we do," but then they don't go they don't take any steps beyond that to, maybe tell the client, "Hey, this is how you're going to benefit from this, and these are the people that have also benefited from this," and they don't also incorporate storytelling. So with my farm and my team, we tend to employ a strategy that we call the customer journey mapping, which is where we take steps to first of all understand the customers and tell a story that's going to sell to the customer. But we also don't want to be too aggressive with the selling because we live in a digital era where the average person is going to see several hundreds or thousands of ads every single day, and nobody wants to be sold to. We still want to buy things, but we
But
want it to
according to,
be
yeah,
our own
exactly.
decision to
Yeah,
buy
exactly. Yeah,
or
yeah.
not to buy.
People want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
And how you achieve that is through storytelling. Storytelling has been very effective, since the dawn of mankind. It's how we preserve history. It's how we, you know, get people to resonate with what's going on.
Yeah, yeah,
And through storytelling, you get to put people in the persona's shoes. And we actually use user personas when you're going about web development. You put people in their shoes. You make them resonate with the feelings that the persona had, and it's a very effective way to get people emotionally invested. And as I'm sure, if you've done any sort of marketing, you know that marketing is not entirely logical. It's an emotional, and
exactly.
we justify the emotions with logic.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're trying to sell to somebody, you don't want to be aggressive. You want to use storytelling. Get this person in their shoes. Let them understand that these are the challenges that somebody had. This is how they felt about it. This is the solution they found from our business, and this is how it benefits them. It benefits them later on. And when you put people emotionally invested into whatever you're doing, it's a lot easier for them to justify the purchase. And that works especially when you're dealing with high value clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have really been talking behind the scenes about the storytelling part, and it's really,
Yeah.
really important because most people are just engineered in a way of thinking that I'll get my products from China or
Yeah.
Turkey and I'll bring them to the shop and people will just come and buy. They'll just say, I have these products, buy now. And it never works that
It
way.
never works.
They are so logical. Like they
Yeah.
think they'll just get their products from China, they come here, they open the shop, people come like flooding to their shops and people just buying. And
Yeah.
it never works. They don't know the essence of branding, the storytelling part. And this is something we have really been talking behind the scenes
Exactly.
about the impact it has on most businesses. Yeah. And it's something we have really been talking about behind the scenes on how we are going to incorporate and just even emphasize this art of storytelling to a lot of brands, be it in e-commerce, even in service industry. You
Exactly.
have to pull people in. People love stories. People like the aspect of, yeah, like there's something behind, like they want to feel the essence of they're part of something more
Exactly.
than just the product or the service that you're providing. They're part of
I
a
totally agree.
yeah, 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 part of a tribe and something like that. So it's really a big deal, and it's something that we really, really talk about even off camera.
Exactly. And I totally agree. And to that, I would also want to add that storytelling, as you've said, it helps bring people in and make them feel like they belong in a community. So, in the age that we live in today, a lot of things are a lot different from how we did them, let's say, thousands of years or hundreds of years ago. Today, you don't have to go out to hunt for your food.
Exactly.
You don't have to, I mean, if you live in an urban environment like we do, you don't really, you don't necessarily grow your own food,
Yeah.
but people still want to belong. And that's where storytelling gets people emotionally invested in your brand and they get them to believe in it. Uh, Many people don't really pay attention to this, but it happens everywhere. When you look at football clubs and your favorite sports teams, or even your favorite car manufacturer, there's a reason why Ferrari would come out with a model that's going to be lower priced, but then they'll have a more premium model, and you find that one of the reasons why they would charge you way more for a certain model of their car is that
Yeah.
they tell you, oh, this is the last design that was done by Enzo before he left Ferrari or before he passed on.
Yeah.
That gets people emotionally invested, and it's all the story. It's about the story. That's what gets people
Yeah. Yeah.
buying, and that's what gets people to understand what exactly you're about and why they should care about you.
Exactly.
And in the era of so many brands today, especially with the digital space, I find that it's a lot harder for you to differentiate yourself, especially when you're trying to sell logically. You're
Yeah.
all about the features. As you said, you go to Turkey, you get the best products, and all you want to sell is, oh, look at us, we have the best leather shoes, or we have the best made, uh, you know,
Yeah.
suits and jackets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that alone is not sufficient because anybody can do that. But what's the story? Why should I care about you? Why should
Yeah.
I care about your leather handbags?
Yeah. Yeah. What's yeah? It's a really big deal.
Exactly.